Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. We're here today at the World Hydrogen Expo in KINTEX, South Korea. My next guest is Ms. Madeleine Gilborne. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Could you introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about the company that you're representing?
Yeah, so thank you first of all for hosting me. My name is Madeleine Gilborne. I work in a company called Alfa Laval. We are in industrial manufacturing, working on technology leadership in heat transfer, separation and pump technologies that operate through the full value chain. And I work in the energy division as vice president and responsible for the energy transition within Alfa Laval.
Yes, I've been talking to many participants today, and I think almost everyone has mentioned now hydrogen as a energy source, which is they're excited about, as opposed to before where it was just a byproduct in so many other industrial processes. So could you tell us a little bit about how maybe that relates to your company?
Yeah, so for us, hydrogen is a key molecule in the energy transition, in particular for the hard-to-abate sector. And we are world leading in heat transfer equipment. So anytime you need heating and cooling, you need a heat exchanger. So we operate through the entire value chain of hydrogen, from the heat transfer you need in the electrolysis process, whether that's alkaline, PEM, or solid oxide. But we also operate through the entire value chain. So if you do methanol synthesis, if you do ammonia synthesis, or also all end user applications, whether it's petrochemical plants, whether it's refueling stations, or also the fuel cell technologies. So we are a core component that sits into the entire hydrogen value chain.
Right. I've also talked to a lot of people, and we've mentioned about how this is such a developing industry. And so from production to distribution to finally consumption and use, all that infrastructure is being laid now. So there's really a demand for, I think, the kind of services and products that you're offering.
Yes, correct. So I think that is the whole key, right? Is that one thing is to just build, but we also need to secure that we have the entire supply chain with us when we're now starting to scale up, and that we have industrial companies who's willing also to put the right supply chains, because it's one thing to build a pilot and be very successful in that, but if you really want to scale hydrogen as an industry, we also need supply chains that is ready to scale, because that's the only way to make hydrogen economical and affordable, because that I think is the key theme of the conference here today.
Yes, I've heard so many people mention development and getting the prices down as well, so that it's competitive with other fuel sources and things like that.
And that is potentially the biggest hurdle today, and I think that's just being very clear here also, that it's the cost of hydrogen that is still too high. The premium to make it green or even low carbon is still too high towards the hydrogen produced from fossil fuels. So, and the only thing to make that happen is to really build these flagship projects at scale, and we really need a supply chain that can ready to scale, so you get the economies of scale into the productions as well. Yeah,
I was going to ask you as the final question a little bit about the future, maybe what we can expect, like future trends or areas where people should look for the future of the hydrogen industry.
So I think where we are right now, the most important things to look for the hydrogen industry is really the large-scale projects. We need large-scale projects to not be pilots, but really demonstration plans to be building full scale, because that's the only way to start getting the cost to come down, but also the learnings from really building this and getting the supply chains in order. So what to look for right now is the big flagship projects, but also how can we really activate the demand so we get a demand for hydrogen. I think then the industry will also start following as well.
So you mentioned your company Alfa Laval. So what are some of the competitive advantages of the company and your position in the market?
Yeah, so what we are world leading is plate heat exchanger technology. And that's a technology that is almost 50% more efficient than conventional heat transfer technology. And we have to remember when we move into the energy transition that we have a 50% increase in demand. And there is not a sustainable future to just increase that demand. So actually the first fuel for the future is energy efficiency. We just have to make use of the energy that we are producing in much better sense. And just to put that in perspective, today if you see 10 windmills, 5 will never be used. That's the loss we have within the energy systems today. And that's energy we want to make sure that we're using. And we have
why is that it's not used?
We waste it. Simply because of excess heat.
wow.
to a large extent.
Okay.
If you take a data center, for example, they use heavily power consumption. 99% of the energy they buy is evaporating as heat. And that's heat that is extremely valuable and that we can take care of. So we advocate a lot for energy efficiency, having more efficient technologies. In our case, it's heat exchangers. And we really think that that's the key for the transition, both in existing industries, but equally important when we now build out like hydrogen economy, we need to make it efficient from the start, making sure we have efficient cooling, efficient heating, and really reuse all the excess heat that is available, because that's a way to drive down the cost as well, to make it efficient.
Right. We talked about how important the cost was to make it a competitive technology. Sorry, what was the second thing?
Energy efficiency movements.
Energy efficiency movements?
Yes.
Okay.
You can ask, we were told that about energy efficiency movement from the IEA this year.
Okay.
And Alfa Group is one of the key initiatives.
From the IEA?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not a part of the industry, so this is all new.
Or you ask as a follow-up what we discussed, okay, how are you then driving the energy efficiency into the industry? Just to twist it, and then I can say it. Makes it easier maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. Just for you. You decide.
Right.
You decide.
We talked about the importance of using energy efficiently. So how are you then driving that energy efficiency in your company?
Yeah, so one thing is, of course, the heat transfer technologies we're talking about, but we are also being a founder partner of the energy efficiency movement that we co-founded together with ABB 2 years ago. And it's today a global association that are more than 650 companies, where 1/3 is in Asia, a lot of also with Korean presence, but also Europe and Americas. And here we just this year launched or hosted a conference together with the International Energy Agency and the European Commission to really set the future of how energy efficiency is the key driver for both existing industries, but also all future applications, including hydrogen. So
it sounds like you're not only working for the good of your own company, but actually something that's benefiting the entire industry then.
Absolutely, because energy is something we all use in electricity and heating, so we really need to make sure we reuse the energy we have produced in a much more efficient way.
Well, and especially because hydrogen has such potential to be a clean energy source.
Absolutely.
And that's why there's such excitement still to have it be developed and have it be successful.
Yes, and from our perspective, I mean, hydrogen is a clear future in the way we see it, so absolutely.
All right, well, I'm glad to hear that, and
Yes.
I wish you good luck with your company in the future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.